Hi, I'm Pox.
I'm Couchguy.
And you're watching a very special edition of the Two Smart Guys Show.
This is so special because you know what? We have an interview. We only have interviews every once in a while.
It was about once a year, about this time of year every year.
Yeah, it's kind of, if we bring them once in a year, that's good. But you know what? This is actually about a subject that is kind of close to
near and dear to our heart.
And it's open source. It's open source community. I know we don't talk a lot about it because we don't try and focus on too many things in particular. And since we're not developers, we don't talk about development that much. But development of open source community is a big deal to us because it means that one, that it's collaborated with all kinds of people. You get the best, out of this. Two, it's not your corporate giant. And sometimes it's the only way we can give the finger to the corporate giant is by not paying for that monster piece of software that somebody else did. So the big deal about this reason why we're doing a show on open source right now, and it's actually a really important show because I need you guys to help out with this. There is a Kickstart that is, the nice way to put it is crowdfunding. Everyone puts in their $1, $10, $100, and to say, I like this program or I like this approach. And the one that we're talking about today is Novacut. It's a video editing development going on that it's right now focused at HD SLR video editors or shooters. But they plan on expanding, but that's where their focus is now. They need to focus small to get started. And they're looking to try and get a $25,000 Kickstart, and they're so close to getting it.
They're very close, and they've got a lot of big names that are that are interested in this project and want to see it through. So
let's put it this way: Philip Bloom put $300 towards it so that he could have a beta when it first came out. Now, here's the thing: there's lots of tiers. You can go as low as $1, as high as $1,000. You can go as high as you want to, and there's actually kickbacks to each of these little things if you want it. Because you put $50 in, you get a half-hour Skype conversation with the developers. You put $100 in, you get an hour. $300 and you get yourself the beta copy.
And these are important that they're doing this because the conversation that you have with them is what they're using to build the product. They're using your input to build it.
I myself, professional editor, would want to have input into the development of something like that. That's where my money is going because you know what? If I can have input into it, I can kind of sway the way that
not a large fruity company that's developing behind closed doors and then just springing it on everybody.
Heaven forbid this red apple or green apple company just jam everything down your throat. So we're going to talk to Jason DeRose, which I'm sure I'm butchering his last name, but that's fine. He is the lead developer for Novacut. Now, Novacut, if you haven't heard of it, it's because it's not really been that loud. But they have been spending all their time and money trying to get this product off the ground.
Emptied their pockets and borrowed from everybody they know. And
this is their second attempt at a Kickstart. The first attempt, no one even knew what they were, so they failed and miserably. I don't want this one to fail, and you shouldn't want this one to fail, because if we can fund open source projects this way and we can help out that community, this is a fantastic startup approach to getting your say into this stuff. So on the bottom of your screen, you're going to see this Kickstart. It's
link URL.
Thank you. That word that I can't remember. Go there, give them some cash because they've only got until Friday to get the money up. So, and here's our interview with Jason. So today we're here with Jason DeRose. Am I saying that right, Jason? DeRose?
DeRose.
DeRose. Okay. And Jason DeRose is the project developer for what is hopefully to be a new open source NLE, nonlinear editor that will probably run, start out on Ubuntu and work its way out from there. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ubuntu is the primary platform in terms of kind of the story because, we're really trying to reach current Mac users. We don't want to overwhelm them, but obviously it's going to run on, any Linux just fine. So.
Gotcha. The important thing right now is that you guys have a Kickstart that you're trying to crowdfund $25,000 to help you develop this program. So that's the biggest reason that we're talking about today. We'd like to have everyone who is, into open source and into, these products to put their money where their mouth is and actually, help fund something like this. So
if you're fed up with the big boys messing with you.
We'll talk about what we love and we hate about, our big boys, but we need competition. We need competition from the community, not just from a company who's going to tell us when and how we will edit. Which is why I like this project, and why I'm becoming a huge advocate for this project, because I want to have competition in that direction. So right now, if below the screen, when you're seeing this on YouTube, you're going to see the Kickstart address. But for you guys watching it live, go to Kickstart, look up Novacut, and put some money in there, because they are so close to getting their Kickstart that it's like, unbelievably close. If the catch is, if they don't hit their Kickstart, they get nothing. So, which is kind of daunting to think about. Jason, let's start out. Tell us what you envision Novacut to be.
So it's our 1-2 punch. The goal is really to help artists be profitable. That's what our passion's all around. And helping storytellers. And so on the one side, we're building a distribution platform where basically, we saw a trend of all these really high quality web series and movies coming out in the last couple of years because of HDSLR. And generally they're pretty much all crowdfunded. And so, we want to gather those up in an easy to find central place, and then really tightly couple the opportunity to crowdfund with, basically the viewing experience. So say, for example, I'm not sure if you guys watch Pioneer One, really cool show, you should check it out, but they're on Vodo, and a few other places. But at the end of some of their shows, they'll have a little kind of personal appeal, like, hey, we hope you like the episode, and we really want to keep doing this, and so we need your help. And we want right there to be basically like a button you can click where you keep it closely tied in with that emotional response, like, oh yeah, that was awesome, I want more of that. And that's where our business model is. And then the other side of that is the editor we're developing. And we really took it on. I mean, we knew that we called it distributed editor after the version control tools, but collaborative seems to be a better way to explain it in terms of a less geeky term that artists get. But if you can allow artists to work in geographically distributed teams, you can work with the best people and work with people that are the right fit for you. So we knew that would be a big help, and that's kind of why we took the editor on, because no one was touching that piece.
Yeah, that's I have to say that now I work as a professional editor, and
nice.
Pox actually does quite a bit of editing himself, but although that's not his full-time gig. We both spend a lot of time with our heads down into a computer, and we both have experienced times where we either have to collaborate with producers, co-conspirators, whatever it may be, over the internet. And traditionally, we've all done kind of the same thing, where we've either we've tried to use Skype, which fails miserably, or we've had to send a project file back and forth, and both people had to maintain the hardware. And then you have to hope that they don't make changes, that you make changes, and crazy. So that is a really exciting side. Not to mention the fact that being open source, we now have community involvement in a way that you're gonna, hopefully this blossoms out to what everything else that open source ends up being. You get the greatest minds spending time on this. The one thing I'm curious on is your approach to crowdfunding. I tried to see if I could find more crowdfunding, in open source, and I got kind of a mixed bag. I got people who, said that it was new and hadn't really been done yet, and people said it's been going on, just not in the same way that you've taken it with Kickstart. Did you see someone else's? What brought into the whole crowdfunding side of this? What made you think of crowdfunding?
Well, I mean, this time around, so we did Kickstarter a year ago, and I think like a lot of geeks, the reason I knew about Kickstarter was because of Diaspora. And so as an example of like a software project pulling this off. But we tried it a year ago. We just started out, no one knew who we were, and it makes sense why we failed.
Yeah.
But this time around, because
we're losing you a little bit there.
obvious PR opportunity. It was kind of like to put off my job. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's just a little bit of buffering. It looks like we had a little bit of stuttering in the Skype feed.
But it was kind of a...
I think it might be better now. Go ahead and try again.
Last ditch opportunity. Still big leg, huh?
Well, I'm really kind of excited to think about crowdfunding as being an object for open source, because it's kind of, what we hear about from bigger companies saying, let the market decide what you want. And in reality, that's kind of what you're doing. You've actually received a little bit of flack for this, which is shocking to me. I kind of always perceive the open source community as being kind of brotherly and nice, but they're downright bastardly to you.
Yeah. Damn it, internet, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, but mostly just something to ignore, because I guess the frustrating thing about it is there's kind of been this attack on our credibility, when personally I have credible than ever, because we have more credibility with who our target users are than ever, and that's what matters. So,
well, I just want to give you a chance to some of the things they talked about, which I don't see as necessarily a bad thing on a startup, but you're the lead developer, but you're not doing this alone. You're collaborating with others. You're obviously this is the whole point of open source. So you're not one man sitting in the basement hoping to have this come out. Talk about your collaboration. How many people do you have now, and where do you see that growing once you get funding?
And I think definitely one good thing about Kickstarter is it does give you good exposure, and so I think the number of people hanging out in the IRC channel is almost doubled during Kickstarter. And there's a lot of people coming in asking about development, and so we're really going to try to funnel those energies into productive work as best as possible, which is exciting. We're getting to a point where it's a lot easier to divide and conquer. So the distributed media library, which is it's a little hard to explain because there's never been anything like it before, but it's media asset management is kind of the closest thing, but less management. So I've been calling it media automation lately, but I'm not sure if that's a great term either. But anyway, it's a hard problem, and it was a little difficult to divide and conquer. I mean, I tried to do the best I could, filing bugs on Launchpad that were pretty accessible, and there have been some takers. Like there's this guy, David Green, that he's been the most consistent co-contributor aside from myself. But because of the very hard architectural problem that you just had to really, really get your head around, not the easiest thing to divide and conquer on. But now we're moving into prototyping the UI, which is totally easy to divide and conquer on. And I guess I'll comment a little bit on that. So basically our approach is, we want to save artists time, and we don't want to, we don't be just like, oh, it's going to be awesome because it's open source, and open source is always awesome. It'd be better because we want to have a methodology, because, for artists, saving them time isn't like a fluffy thing. I mean, that's like serious, make their lives better, allow them to actually make art kind of thing. That's a very important thing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The faster you can make a project in reality, the better your day rate ends up being a kickback in your wallet.
Right. And so we're really trying to, for each little, minuscule workflow step, our idea is that we do a bunch of throwaway prototypes with HTML5, and sometimes they'll run okay over the web. Sometimes they really need to run locally, and you get the files all locally. But and so we'd love people to come in and do variations, pretty much, to really kind of explore the problem space. And because you can kind of you're disconnected from the live backend, you can start with a blank slate. People can try some bold things I think wouldn't be experimented with otherwise. And then basically we're going to measure how fast people can work at the prototype stage, and then that's what decides, what goes on to the full implementation.
And you guys haven't been producing in a vacuum. You guys have actually been talking to quite a few, individuals. And I know that you were very excited to get the support from Philip Bloom, and you were able to talk to a few people who are like industry, I don't want to say big names because nobody's at this level is a really super big name anymore because the editing is distributed so thick, so much on major motion pictures. But you guys have had some editors from major motion pictures giving you pointers on where to go and where to avoid. So you guys have had a lot of collaboration also from that side of it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, something that sets us apart from, how kind of the Procreative app projects have been done open source before. Like we were went into it knowing this isn't for us. We're not scratching our own itch. And we made a very opinionated decision about who our target users were. And it's, right now it's very narrow, and immediately we started talking to them. And it's amazing how much, just like a 10-minute conversation can help in terms of okay, I get what these people are going through. I get where the big time sucks are that I need to really try to help them with. And so it's basically being designed by the artists, and we just kind of have to funnel the efforts. Sorry.
No worries. We got a question from our chat right now that I'm going to bring up, and it's, I think it's about money, and they want to know exactly where do you need the $25,000 exactly, and how is it committed, where are the milestones, where are the benchmarks. I think $25,000 is kind of a puny amount to try and put into, to get at this point, because you're really committing something on the neighborhood of where other companies would be spending millions. You're asking for, basically $25,000 to, cover your expenses. Am I correct? Or kind of tell us where, how that $25,000 gets used and what you expect to get when you get that, kickstart.
Right. So, we funded this ourselves the past year. So it's been, we actually have well, maybe not quite more. We have almost $25,000 just in credit card debt from last year. And, we burned through all of our savings, and then we borrowed, basically all we could from friends and family, which, it's been a struggle, but at the same time, because our commitment to artists is so important to us. That's, why we're doing this. And so the longer we can stretch things without having to take on investment, the better positioned we are to, keep that commitment and not have an investor steer us elsewhere. So the 25,000, it's basically keeping us working on this full time. We think for long enough to have, collaborative editing that's never happened before. Totally usable. It's going to be simple. It's just going to be fast cutting, and that's all at first. But I think as soon as it's to that tangible point, then it gets a lot easier for us to engage with investors and have be able to negotiate something that's good for us and good for artists.
So you're basically trying to cover the same expenses that you want to fund the project for another year, working towards this where you had already self-funded yourself.
Well, and we're not going to make it a year on this.
No, I'm just saying that you're trying to fund yourself another Band-Aid. On this, right. You really do need more money than the $25,000, but this is just a good Band-Aid to keep you going.
Right.
Okay. Another question that, I think a lot of people ask, and I think it's kind of, I know it's going to be a difficult question to ask, so, please be as vague as you need to be, but a lot of people always want to know, once you, start asking for Kickstart, they want to know, when's the release going to, when's projected to release? Are we looking at a 5-year? Are we looking at 1 year? Are we looking at 3 months? And obviously 3 months is completely ridiculous, and a year is probably ridiculous for something that is a fully functional as promised and what they, your expectations of what this to become. But tell me what you expect, rollout wise. Are you going to release I know you spoke of if you invest $300, you can get access to the pre-betas and things like that for testing and things like that.
Right.
What are you expecting in timetable wise?
It's always a difficult question, and I'm also known for being bad on estimates. But
that's fair.
But it's a difficult thing. But I think that we'll have and I guess another thing to point to is like as soon as we have editing working, it's collaborative because of just it's the foundations we've built. We actually can't have editing features that aren't collaborative because we make ourselves go through Couchguy. But I think probably 4 months. And again, right now we're just focusing on cutting. We have two, semantic operations or whatever constructs, slice and sequence.
Yeah. So basic A/B cutting.
Yeah. It takes, like 80 lines of code to map that into a genome-len composition, and that's the piece to get, because cutting is so important as far as like time savings. And but anyway, so I think probably about 4 months. So like the distributed media library takes care of the hardest part, which is getting files back and forth between users. It also takes care of generating proxies, or I guess the term FCP users are used to is like offline files.
Yeah, proxies works. We're all safe in that area. Well, I'm trying to think of the next options that that I have questions about, because a lot of the questions I have are more like things I'd want to see. You're not even near that point yet, which isn't even fair to ask you about. Which is where a lot of people ask. It's about interface and things like that. But is there in line of there's been a pretty structured. I don't want to say structured in terms of everyone looks the same, but everyone pretty much looks the same towards editing. Can we expect that kind of GUI with you guys when it comes to user interface, where we're into our more traditional two-screen and video line? You guys aren't breaking ground in terms of design. You're just trying to get it to a point where it's familiar to the artist, right?
I would say we are breaking ground in terms of design. So we're definitely not trying to do things different, because for sure, but again, because time savings is always a motivation, like we're trying to approach each piece with a pretty, not going with a lot of assumptions, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
But we're trying to stay open. It's like, okay, here's this slightly different way of doing it, and it makes it much, much, much faster for the artists. But I'm not sure if you guys have seen the storyboard view demos.
I have. I went and looked on your Vimeo account and looked at the storyboard views and the wheel scrolling for frame accurate rolling and things like that.
So that's a place where as far as I know, no one's done that sort of thing. But and another thing to clarify on there, we will certainly have a traditional timeline view, and the idea is basically you can switch back and forth between them, and then whatever helps you, with your current step the most, that's what you use.
I understand. I know this is, your original approach, and this approach currently is targeted towards the HDSLR market, which we all know, being that it came in so fast, it's going to be moving. It's still a moving target. What are your plans for the future? Because obviously, I've shot some HDSLR, but I shoot a lot primarily higher end from there, which brings in are you hoping to break out of just the HDSLR and move into bigger things? And is there a hope to work with major companies like your Blackmagic Design and Aja, where they supply like capture card abilities and things like that, where we can use bigger and bigger codecs and bigger files and things like that? Is that something you're looking into now as you build, or is that something you'll just wait later on and build the codecs in?
So because we're using GStreamer, we can work with any codec it supports right now, which is a bunch. It's most everything. The reason we start with HDSLR is just in terms of people that are making direct-to-fan content right now. That's the biggest target, and that easily gets us 75% of those artists. So it's nice that we can have a narrow focus but hit a big target. So it's a good place to start. And a lot of the HDSLR specific things are really more kind of like how to take advantage of the metadata that's available, and do workflow automation based on that. So it's not so much because of the codec; it's more other things. But then obviously we have to, we'll have a lot of effort on, basically the quality control for the video files produced by those cameras. But we'll definitely move on to more and more cameras with time, and again, because of Ustreamer, immediately it's going to work well with a bunch of cameras. I guess the biggest thing is sorry, I'm also very tired. In case
no worries
on that. But the biggest thing about the HDSLR focus is we feel it's really important to, as quickly as possible, get the editor to a state where people are producing and publishing real content with it, because we really try to steep ourselves in reality. And so early on, the narrower we can focus, the quicker we can kind of like punch through to being able to publish stuff with this, and really make sure that's the ultimate test. It's like, can you use this for a tool in your day-to-day living?
And I think it's fine. I think it's a great starting point. HDSLR and whatnot, they are really, really prevalent, and it will hit two markets. You can hit a professional market, and you can hit a consumer market really easily with that. So I kind of want to play devil's advocate. What happens if you don't get the Kickstart?
So, at this point, I absolutely cannot go longer without a full-time job, or maybe 2 full-time jobs. We do have a quite healthy community that we built around Novacut, and so it's not like things would stop. But I think especially with, how design-focused we have to be in order to actually succeed at what we're trying to do, if you don't have full-time people, or you're a full-time benevolent dictator, it gets hard. That's why
you become the wandering development.
Yeah,
and and that's fair. So I think that I'll use this chance to reemphasize whether or not you're a video editor or not. This is a big deal for a chance for you, the viewer, to be a part of something from the ground up. In reality, how many people say, "I wish I would have been knew about this project at the beginning," things like that. Now, this is one of those times. You can, go to their Kickstart, kick in some money. I know that I'm going to, we're really big advocates for open source, and anytime we can get the chance to, especially if it's a project that's, near and dear, I want to put money towards it.
Yeah,
so
you see a lot of these Linux ones that just kind of
and they fizzle
out. So
when they're good projects and the community wants them, we need to fund them. And I saw a very interesting web lecture that started talking about how open source should be funded. And we as an open source loving community need to think about this differently. That if we're using, and the example was GIMP, that if we're using a piece of software to supplement something else that we would use professionally, in this case Photoshop, we need to pitch in towards GIMP's continued development. And this case is very, very similar to, you're getting it before it even, hits the shelves, so to speak, in our case. And to keep this project alive, we need to really fund it. We need to push it. And you guys are close. You guys are like, what? We're talking like $5,000 of a $25,000 goal, and you've only got 2 days to go. So it's a really big deal to, put out $300 if you got it, and you'll get access to the beta when it comes available. How much cooler can that be? I don't think there's ever been a chance where I've pitched in money and I've actually gotten a beta version and had input on a beta version. $50, you guys are willing to have a half-hour conversation on Skype with somebody to hear their input. That's a lot of time if you think about how many people are willing to give out $50. You guys would be spending a lot of time on Skype taking notes.
Well, I did like that reward because it kind of emphasizes that, it's like the thing different about us is that you can talk to us. And honestly, people can talk to us without paying $50. It might be a little booked for a while, but it's been conversations with artists that, that's how we do this. And we knew that early on. It's like, because we're not professional storytellers. And so we have to do everything we can to understand what they go through and then, vet the design decisions each little step of the way.
I think it's fantastic. I really do. And, let's be honest. If you have $1,000, you want to have a barbecue with these guys, I'm sure the barbecue's going to be in Colorado, right? You'll be, popping down to Boulder and get the barbecue with, everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wrap things up here. We've been on for a little while, and I want to make sure that people watch this on the web. We put it on YouTube and whatnot. But kind of, in the last little bit, kind of tell us where you want to go. Kind of what you hope to get out of this. Kind of like, this is your chance. Sell it to the people with what, you have this idea that you want to flower it out. Kind of tell them what you want. This is your chance to pitch.
So I think the most important thing about the timing right now is that, there is a serious opportunity for a bunch of pro video users who have been using Macs for, a decade to move to, both open source video editor and open source platform. Like it's amazing the people that we've had traction with, because of recent events, and it's like open source is good on execution. That's something we're reliable on, but the design side's been a problem. But, the important thing on the design side is just to be having that conversation with artists and that relationship building, because if you have that, the artists are going to design it. One thing great about pro users is they're very good at communicating what they need. And, a lot of times it's basically they just kind of tell us, yeah, it should work this way. And it's like, okay, that's how it's going to work. So it's a huge opportunity for, to really prove to a very important, influential group of users, like Hollywood, entertainment industry. That's some people that could really, really help, as far as the marketing of free software. But so it's an opportunity to really prove to them that, yes, open source can deliver on the design, can deliver, we can kind of look up from our navel and, focus on the users and build something great for them.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for, being a part with us. I know that you're busy and that, you're probably worn out from everything you've been working on, but it was really, really quick turnover for this interview, and I really appreciate it. And, honestly, for all the people watching this, take the time, spend some dollars. It's not going to cost you that much money to be a part of this. $25, $5, you can do as low as $1. But if everybody who, wanted open source could pitch in a little bit, this project's going to move forward. So I want to say thanks again for being with us, and
thanks.
We appreciate your interview.
Thanks, guys. A very cool opportunity.
Yeah, so that seems like a really interesting project.
I really want this to come through.
I'm going to fund it.
I'm going to fund it. I don't have a whole lot of money into it. I'll admit, I don't have a lot of money, but you know what I have I'm putting into it, because it's a big deal. Here's the catch. If they don't get the money by Friday, they don't get anything. It's a really big deal. Put your money where their mouth is now, because if you say you're a huge fan of open source and you want to fund a project, and this is a great one. It's a good time to start. So for everyone else who watches our show, we have a show every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday we do a live show at 10:30 Mountain Time. Which
would be Eastern, it's 12:30, and Pacific, it's 9:30. And if you're in the middle, you can figure it out yourself. Somewhere on the screen, there's a subscribe button.
Subscribe.
That really helps us out. If you're on iTunes and you subscribe to us on iTunes, it really helps us out, because that's the best way for people to know how many people we have watching, which is how
both on iTunes and YouTube.
And YouTube, watch us on YouTube. It's a fantastic thing. Just subscribe to the button, and it's delivered in your inbox. It's great. We appreciate you watching.
And thank you for staying to the very end of these long shows.
I know that we run long and we really annoy some people when we go over 10 minutes.
And that's why we're giving out stickers.
Yeah, we like our stickers.
So if you stayed to the end, there's a trivia question.
I have no idea what to ask anyone for a trivia question.
It always should be something that's within the show, so I'm going to skip to the end.
I know.
And I should say, what is the name of the media, the Linux codec that he's using for Novacut?
All right, we're talking about the background. The media interpreter.
Yeah.
Not the one that he wrote, the backbone for his.
Right.
Okay, because I'm not going to say it, even though I almost did. That is your trivia question, and you do that, you get a sticker.
Yep, just email me, pox@twosmartguys.com, and I will send you out a sticker. Oh, and don't forget to send me your address, or else I don't know where to send it.
Yeah, if you don't put an address on there.
And it's the first person to do it, so...
one person.
One person.
So the first person. So technically, if you're in the chat and you do this, you win.
Oh, cheaters.
So there is an advantage to watching us live. So anything else we want? We have more great shows coming up. We've got all kinds of things between Lion and other hacks we're working on. We've got lots of stuff in the queue waiting. But we do still want to get suggestions. So if anything like this comes up, you want to have a show about something, or if you find out about something that is community-based like, Novacut is, tell us about it. We really are big, advocates for this stuff.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
This has been the Two Smart Guys